in Marshall, Texas. After studying abroad in the Dominican Republic, Dr. Bolton attended graduate school at the University of Alabama, completing an MS in genetics in 2003 and a PhD in molecular biology in 2008. Dr. Bolton has worked as a research scientist and a forensic scientist. He received the Legend Living Award in 2013 and the Pioneer in Education Award in 2015. He currently chairs the science department here. Join me in welcoming Dr. James J. Bolton.
Oh man, that one hurt. Woo-wee. Thank you, Nurse Patterson, for putting this up here for me. That one hurt real bad. To Dr. President, the administrative staff, faculty, staff, and students, family members, the other person who fell down the stairs. Impossible. Unbelievable. Too hard. Too much. I'm tired. This is just too overwhelming. I'm done. I quit. Are all things you all have either heard, experienced, or said yourself. This particular program has challenged you, but I have come to realize that anything that does not challenge you will never, ever change you. And changing you for the better. Because the truth be told, that change brought about maturity. That change brought about strength. I started off this talk by saying impossible. Impossible. Impossible is a word that lies to you until you prove it wrong. The moment you do what's considered impossible, that word ceases to exist. It was impossible for man to fly until they invented the airplane. It was impossible for not just you, but for some of you to graduate from high school until you did. It wasn't possible for you all to get into nursing school until they sent that phone call, an email to tell you that you made it in. It was also impossible for you to get to this moment until you persevered. Impossible. That word means it has yet to be done before. It hasn't been done before. Cancer hadn't been cured before. Dementia hadn't been reversed before. Fibroids hadn't been eliminated before. But the health care hadn't got a hold of you all before. You were uniquely born to do what only you can do, and nobody else can beat you at being you. So, don't deprive the world of your gift. Don't be afraid of your future. Tests, job placements. Don't be afraid of that. Because it was Abraham Lincoln who said it this way: the best way to predict your future is to create your future. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how hard it's been. It doesn't even matter how many times you failed. I, James J. Bolton, now realize a key thing in my life, and that is this: what I came from tells me what I came for. I came from a broken family. I came from a single parent family. I came from a family that my grandmother's friend told her these words. He said, you know, your daughter Claudia, who's my mother, said, you know, your daughter Claudia, her womb is cursed, and none of her children would ever be nothing. Say that with me, nothing. Class participation, 5% of your grade. Say that with me, nothing.
Nothing.
When I point to you, say nothing. So, I decided that I was going to take myself to the second worst elementary school in Chicago. And I finished. I then decided I was going to take myself to the worst high school in Chicago. Then I transferred to the second best high school in Chicago. But the counselors felt that I was nothing and put me in what they used to call the slow kids class. But I finished. I then took myself to college, and my physics instructor told me I did nothing in his class, but I finished. Then I went to grad school, and in grad school, the dean told me he can do nothing for me, so I had to find a way to graduate. And I finished. Finished to the point that in 2008, I received a PhD in molecular biology and genetics. And they told me at that time, Dr. Bolton, you are the first black in the United States within the last 8 years to get a PhD in this field, because I finished. Was hired by Cornell University. At that time, it was ranked the 13th best university in the United States. Went there, was the first person who looked like me to be a scientist in that research group. While at Cornell University, the government called. And the government calling is just like a restroom calling. You're going to have to answer. So they called. Said, Dr. Bolton, we're starting a secret society of scientists who will travel the world over doing DNA analysis on crime scenes anywhere that there's a war. All because I finished. I went home, saw that lady that told my grandmother that my mother Claudia, her womb was cursed and that her children would be nothing. And she looked at me in my face, walked towards me, hugged me around my neck, and say, "Boy, you sure are something." You are too. Each one of you, you're something. But don't negate your purpose. We have a lot of great starters, but we need some phenomenal finishers. And nurses, you're going to have some rough days ahead. You're going to have some hard times ahead. Some decisions that you make are going to be difficult. And one of the most hurtful things that I experienced while in med school was to tell the family of a loved one bad news. Sometimes it's not telling the person bad news. It's telling the family of that person bad news. Hurtful. But one of my most painful moments ever experienced in my 40 years of breathing and blinking happened when my 9-month, 1-week, and 6-day-old niece died when I was out saving other lives. So in my pain, in my hurt, I decided I was going to throw in the towel. But Claudia, my mother, picked up that towel and threw it back at me. So in my pain, while I'm hurting, I couldn't help but save that infant who was drowning. In my pain, in my hurt, I couldn't help but help save that guy who was having who had brain aneurysm. In my pain, in my hurt, I could not help but save that guy who was shot standing next to me. And that's when I realized that in my hurt and in my pain, that broken crayons still color. The mark of greatness is upon you. You're a champion. You're a hero and some sheroes. Being those things, the world needs to hear your story. Other students need to see your genius. The depressed and the downtrodden need your smile. The untouched need your hand. Healthcare needs your skill. And somebody somewhere needs your touch. Notice, somewhere on me is still another Band-Aid. Some of you I've taught. Some of you I've seen cry. But on me, somewhere, is another Band-Aid that only you can help get rid of. In closing, the word nurse and nourish come from the same 15th century Old English word, which means to provide necessary health, growth, and optimal living. Let your purpose, nurse, be just that. Nurse, nourish every hospital room you walk in. Nurse, nourish every patient you care for. Nurse, nourish every life that you touch. Now go and do great.